Thank you for joining our presentation. Our presentation is called How Much is Too Much? Our names are Michaela Davis, Megan Klug, and Shelby Wilder.
In this article, authors studied how light, moderate, and heavy guidance affects a student's engagement with an interactive simulation. The same simulation, PhET Interactive Simulations Acid-Based Solutions, was used with 3 written activities designed as heavy guidance, moderate guidance, and light guidance. Researchers collected the number of mouse clicks that each student made. This gave them a better understanding of how participation differs depending on the type of instruction a teacher gives. In this seminar, we will be reviewing this article and talking about the benefits and downfalls of light, moderate, and heavy guidance.
This article is titled, How Guidance Affects Student Engagement with an Interactive Simulation. It is written by Julia Chamberlain, Kelly Lanchester, Robert Parson, and Catherine Perkins. This article was published in 2014. We first came across this article while in a science education course. We were talking about how we wanted to find more ways to integrate technology into our science classrooms. With the support of Dr. Katrina Lisi, the Director of Science Education at Georgia College and State University, we were able to dive into the world of PhET simulations and how they can be used in the classroom. Dr. Lisi also helped us understand how different levels of instruction can provide support for every student in the class, which is also discussed in this article. We accessed this article in 2020.
Light guidance is the first and simplest model used to obtain participation data. Researchers provided light guidance, which meant that they did not show the students how to use controls in the simulation, but rather left it up to the students to investigate and observe different things on their own. Students received a 1-page activity sheet with the prompt: explore the simulation with a partner. Record 10 observations that you notice below. Make sure to investigate all of the factors that affect the pH of a solution. The rest of the page was left blank for observations. Students were given the freedom to explore the site. This led to more student interaction with the site because they had to play around with each control in order to figure out how they worked. The authors stated, not surprisingly, the amount and type of guidance that students receive when they use simulations and animations can affect student exploration, perceptions of relative importance of learning materials, and learning outcomes. As you can see on this worksheet, we provided minimal instructions.
Moderate guidance is described as moderate guiding because students were given the goal of answering open-ended questions about the concepts of strength and concentration in acids, but were only given minimal instructions on which controls to manipulate. Students given moderate guidance were provided with more freedom in how they used the simulation, but were directed to investigate specific concepts. Unlike students in light guidance, who only received 1 page of instructions, students in moderate guidance were given 2 pages, which contained 8 prompts or questions. For each question, there was approximately a 1/4 page of blank space for students to write their observations and answers. Moderate guidance was split into 2 parts. Part 1 instructed students to explore the simulation with a partner and record some of your observations below. In Part 2, students were prompted to use the Introduction tab to compare strong and weak acid solutions. Students were then asked the following questions. 1. Describe all the ways that the initial acid concentration affects the solution and the measured pH, and explain why that makes sense using evidence from the simulation. 2. Describe all the ways that the acid strength affects the solution and the measured pH, and explain why that makes sense using evidence from the simulation. 3. Record your answers to Part 2, Question 2, using evidence from the simulation to support your answer. The following documents that we created is similar to the light guidance. However, it differs because students were asked to answer true-false questions, investigate, and answer follow-up questions, as can be seen on the multiple pages.
Teaching through heavy guidance is most alike to step-by-step instructions. In the article, students in this group received a 4-page activity sheet with 40 numbered prompts and spaces, boxes, and tables to record data and answers. Students were given instructions on how to adjust the simulation controls and were told specifically what to record on the activity sheet. Prompts in Part 1 guided students to use specific controls in the simulation. An example of instructions is provided below. In Part 2, students received step-by-step instructions to use the Custom Solution tab to record ion concentration and pH data for strong acids. Below you will find examples from our worksheet. In the Solution section of the control panel, select strong acid. For Step 5, record the equation, strong acid equation, space for the answer. For number 6, it asks, in the Views section of the control pane, make sure molecules is selected. In number 7, it asks, describe the molecule's view in the box below. The instructions continue in that manner. The completed heavy guidance worksheet can be found via the links at the end of our presentation. In our worksheets, we wrote instructions to find and complete a PhET simulation and answer the questions that are imperative for learning. Although the lesson looks far longer, it takes the same amount of time to complete as the light and moderate instruction lessons. Each page includes a picture with a circled area indicating what the assignment should look like when the student is filling it out. Each page is a new setup. The process carries on, and questions are asked throughout the lesson rather than all at the end, or all listed with some or no directions as to when to fill them out. Heavy guidance instruction would be helpful for content which students have not interacted with yet.
In conclusion, the researchers' results suggested that writing guidance affects which simulation features students use and how much of the simulation they explore. Researchers noticed that when students were given the freedom to explore, then they were more likely to examine and engage with the simulation in ways that resulted in equivalent time on each task. Although, as you will notice in the graphs below, students in the light guidance groups averaged 2 times more clicks per minute compared to the students in the moderate guidance group, and 4 times more clicks per minute compared to those in heavy guidance. Initially, both the light and moderate groups were focused on freely exploring the simulation. The groups in heavy guidance were clicking less and frequently because they were primarily focused on the extensive instructions given to them. Therefore, students in the light and moderate guidance groups spent more time exploring and engaging with the site. As we were researching this article, we immediately thought about how we could use this to create student autonomy in our class. This will allow students to take control of their own learning for the day and allow them to choose what guidance they would like to learn from. We all have that student who does best when they are given high instructions, so the heavy guidance would work best for them. However, we also have that creative thinker in our class who is willing to do things on their own way, so light guidance would be best for them. Overall, we feel like this would be a great way for middle grade students to have the chance to explore their own way of learning. On this page, you will find the links to the different worksheets that we created that follow along the PhET simulation called Force and Motion Basics. For light guidance, you'll use the first link that will lead you to a 2-page document. For moderate guidance, the second link will take you to a 4-page document. For heavy guidance, you will use the third link that will take you to a 17-page document with great detail and step-by-step instructions for your students to follow. The article that we cited throughout our seminar can be found on the final link. This article also includes our annotations from our reading in the class. We hope that you found this presentation informational, and if you have any questions about what we did, please use the email that is down below. Thank you so much for your time. We hope you enjoyed our seminar, How Much is Too Much? We invite you to copy and use the links on this page, which will provide you with the referenced article and our worksheets.